And on we are into episode 84, and I really hope I don't get taken down for this one because we are returning to Africa to discuss Kirk's Dik. Now, despite a questionable name, it's seriously just an unfortunate onomatopoeia allegedly. They say that it makes a noise that sounds like zik-zik, or a zipping noise. But, between you and me, they just sound like a shitty squeak toy followed by a burp. As for their scientific name, they're known as Madakwa kirki, and Madakwa just seems to be the name they use for Diks. I literally couldn't find any etymology, so I guess we're just gonna have to run with it. But at least the man they're named after is quite interesting. Their namesake naturalist is John Kirk, a British administrator of the archipelago of Zanzibar, when it was under the Crown's control, of course. He is most known for his work in medicine, exploration, and aiding in the end of the local slave trade in the 1860s. While his spirit animal isn't native to Zanzibar, they are native to the two local nations the island cluster is closest to, Tanzania and Kenya. They can also be found in a small section of Uganda, and for some reason, there's a small population that lives in Namibia and Angola. Now, the evolutionary history of the Dik is kind of fucking annoying, which is a trend with all antelope, as you probably either know from previous episodes or will learn from watching the ones coming up. For some reason, we really struggle to figure out its family tree, but let's see what we can actually share, shall we? The oldest antelope in the paleontological record is known as Eotagus, living roughly 20 to 18 million years ago. We have found fossils all across Europe, Asia, and Africa, so they're definitely not the beginning of the line. However, it was probably very early on. Only standing slightly taller than a house cat, they had eventually branched off into many different animals, and their closest living relative genetically are the four-horned antelope of India. The Diks line probably branched off from the Eotaguses roughly 12 million years ago, and evidently they're the embodiment of I don't want to grow up, because the Dik is the third smallest species of antelope, only reaching 14 to 18 inches tall and a whopping 16 pounds. If you are curious, their closest living relatives are also number 1 and number 2 smallest. I imagine the Kirk Diks lived all throughout southern Africa, but when the Kalahari consumed Botswana and the arid surroundings of the desert had caused separation of the Namib-Angolan range and the Kenya-Tanzanian range. Now, in this range, there's obviously a lot of interaction between them and humans. Funnily enough, that doesn't mean we have a lot of culture to talk about. The first main piece of influence the animal has on human society actually has to do with the general mindset local peoples have in regards to the Dik. And while larger antelopes in Africa tend to be respected and valued, local hunters fucking hate these little shits. And with how lacking in information it's been giving me, I feel the same way. But, unlike me, hunters hate them because they have insanely good senses of smell, hearing, and even sight. On top of all that, other herd animals have learned that if they see or hear the sound of a fleeing Dik, that means they need to dip as well. So, quite simply, the Dik is the early warning system of the savannah, but this doesn't stop hunters from actively targeting them themselves. While the meat is lacking, there are two major things a hunter would look for in his prey. One is its bones. The legs and feet specifically are often used in traditional jewelry of the areas. And also, its hide. Dik hides are often used in the production of suede-like gloves, and it takes one whole Dik pelt to make a single glove. I think that's a steep price for some fucking mittens, but hey, it's probably more than whacking a hooved snitch than making gloves. That is the end of the cultural influence. So let me explain some unique characteristics that may seem interesting. Firstly, Diks are lifelong monogamists, unlike your parents, and tend to live in herds of a mating pair and their young, until eventually the young can move on, obviously. This small family structure actually leads to them being pretty territorial with other Diks, but are surprisingly curious creatures. Now, their curiosity doesn't get in the way of their skittishness, as many potential threats will cause them to bolt in a zigzagging motion while making their trademark squeak. They're also capable of crossing a 9-foot jump in a single bound if an obstacle gets in the way. Though they are very well renowned for their ability to run, their most striking feature is that pre-orbital gland, making it look almost like a second set of eyes. They use these glands to mark their territory and communicate with others of their kind. While this may not sound interesting on the surface, it is important to note that most animals don't have glands in locations like this. Most scent glands will either be near the anus, or in the mouth, or behind the eyes. You can see something like this in a moose in rut when it looks like they're crying from the side of their head. But that is all the information I have for you today. Pretty short one. Even the exhibit, I unfortunately didn't have a lot of inspiration with this one. When the animal is literally only found in arid savanna scrublands, there's only so much I can do. So, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. As much traction as you can to help me out. I do this for fun, but, you know, I like seeing my numbers go up. It makes me feel good. So, until next time, go outside, touch grass, hug your loved one, drink water, and bye-bye.